Sarapocial. What is Sarapocial? So, Sarapocial was a word recently coined by John Green and Hank Green, better known as the Vlog Brothers, to describe the opposite of a parasocial relationship, but they kind of work together. So, parasocial relationships are when people get somewhat attached uh, to the people they are fans of. So, this could be a fictional character, this could be a real person. It happens a lot on the internet when people show a face that's somewhat authentic, or at least pretend to be authentic, uh, and the masses sort of fall for this situation. It could be a crush, or it could just be really, really wanting to be that person's friend. And I have read articles about how this can be healthy. It can be a bit of a fix for loneliness. I mean, more of a band-aid for loneliness, but sometimes you need a band-aid, and can even help with some of people's bigotries is if they're seeing a fictional character portraying a like a race or a gender that they've previously been prejudiced against, but they're really attached to the TV show or the movie. It can actually start to break down some of that bigotry. So parasocial can be very beneficial, and parasocial could be also taken to unhealthy levels, like when people stalk a celebrity. But it's a pretty natural phenomenon, and everyone will probably experience it at some point. Sarapocial is when you're the celebrity or the public figure. And I am by no means a celebrity. I have some following, and I have since I was a teenager and actually like doing gigs as a musician. And yet I've still experienced some of that Sarapocial feeling of having fans that can get a little too intense, or they misinterpret my messaging. So they're doing some damage in the world and using either the books I write or the songs I've written or the content I create to go do things that I never intended. Positive things can happen as well. Like, I remember when I wrote my books, I was not thinking of a young audience, but I was kind of making them PG parent, which is a term my parents came up with where they're very, I don't want to, maybe innocent, I should say, and I didn't want to write anything that would offend them. Later on, I wrote books with less of my parents in mind. But as a side effect, I found that some teenagers were also enjoying my books, and it didn't make parents upset if they were reading my books because they were good for an all ages audience. And since I was a teenager when I started to do music, I needed to use a lot of all ages venues and again, attracting a younger audience while still maintaining a lot of older fans as well. However, when I've experienced the Sarapocial in a negative way, I remember there were fan clubs devoted to my TikTok content, and they had very flattering names for me, and they would create like beautiful montages and literally be singing my praises by writing songs. And I replied to all their comments. I did duets on TikTok to their content and did everything in my power to show that I appreciated these fans. And there are only 5 of them, okay? So you wouldn't think that this would be a big deal. But at some point, they decided that they did not like that I was trying to do a variety of content, and they wanted me to do 100% singing all the time. And they started turning on me because I was doing a variety of content. And I couldn't figure out at first, like, what did I do wrong? Why am I getting canceled by my 5 fans on TikTok? And it simply turned out that they wanted from me to be locked in a box and singing 24/7. And as much as I would like for the world to be a musical, my life is not a musical, and it's certainly not a sung all the way Andrew Lloyd Webber musical. So I wouldn't mind doing a live stream at some point where I'm completely singing the entire time, but at the time, TikTok didn't even allow for longer videos. So every YouTube video I'd made where I was singing, I had to chop into 60-second bits to put on there. And now I'm actually revisiting that trend and chopping up the videos into 60-second bits because of TikTok basically flagging any singing cover video that's over 60 seconds and not allowing you to post them. So I will say this extra labor compared to making another type of video like this one where I'm just talking to you, or a video where I'm showing off, you know, foods that I like or trying to do comedy skits. I think that was what I was doing at the time. I was trying to add comedy skits, and most people who were fans who had not made fan pages were very much in favor of the comedy skits I was doing because I was finding another creator that other people seemed to be fans with and doing these TikTok duets with them and trying to make it funny and put my own spin on it. And then I could not figure out why the five people who had dedicated their entire TikTok existence to me were suddenly very upset about it. Eventually, they all made an apology video, but not until after they had all changed their names to really insulting uh, names for me, including profanity, which I will not repeat here. So Sarapocial can be good or can be bad, but it puts a lot of pressure. And I've wanted to be famous since I was very young. I'm the youngest of six kids, so I felt like I was always striving to get my parents' attention, and it turned into being a theater kid who was also in choir, who was also in band playing clarinet, who also had a bunch of rock bands on the side that were doing gigs. I love the idea of being famous, and uh, since I was born in the 80s, it's not like the internet was around to boost people's fame. So once the internet came along, the 15 minutes of fame that everybody talked about became more achievable. And then TikTok kind of turned it into 15 seconds of fame. So I don't think I was properly prepared for what kind of both positive popularity on the internet comes with. So I've handled it as well as I can. I do have a neurodivergent brain, and for some reason, it took a really long time to figure that out. And so I think it also led to a term I've heard, rejection sensitivity dysphoria. And so it's basically that fear of rejection, and people aren't even rejecting you, but you feel the pain and you second guess everything that you say. I've had to develop a thicker skin because people can be so mean on the internet, but if my mental health is lower for other reasons, like I recently kind of came out of a pretty long depression, which might explain why you didn't see a lot of content for me. And every comment section on the internet just felt like a toxic cesspool. Even if I wasn't typing anything in the comments, I could see people saying like really bigoted things against my particular identities, and it was tough. So I don't know how anyone like Hank Green and John Green managed to be on the internet and as famous as they are and just not have their heads explode. So I would definitely recommend checking out Hank Green's recent video on YouTube where he talked about this. He posted about 2 weeks ago, but I was just catching up on some of his content. And just think about the fact that when you're commenting on someone's video, they are still a human being. And if you aren't wording things in a nice way, pain can be felt. And maybe that's the intention of some people on the internet. They want to cause pain. In fact, I get a little bit of a joyful rush if I shut down a troll by explaining how little the troll's opinion means to me. But in general, I would like there to be less trolling on the internet. And there are plenty of bad faith arguments, and there are still good faith people who are asking questions because they're curious and asking questions from a good place. And I don't want to assume that all of them are trolls or bigoted. And I see a lot of that happening online as well. So as long as someone's asking me something in good faith and I have the energy to respond to them, I'm going to respond to them. I'm not so famous at this point that I can't respond to the majority of comments that come in. But trolls, my main thing on TikTok is I love that the audience skews young. So every troll on TikTok I think of as a baby troll. Like, they're a teenager trying to troll me. How upset could I possibly be about that? But in general, the internet can be a pretty nasty place. So take care, everybody.